What's up, y'all, and welcome to the Jack Vita and Stephenie LaGrossa Kendrick show.
Talking traitors.
Traitors Talk, we're back. Episode 5 is in the books. We've got so much to discuss today. Stephenie, of course,
Things are heating up.
Season 1 contestant, she's back, and we're running through this, recapping every episode this season.
That's right.
Today we get a little more time to talk about it because last week we had like 4 episodes to talk about in under 2 hours. But today it's the best episode yet, right? It's getting even better each
It's getting better and better every week. It's like my kids are like, when is the next one going to be on? And I get like one ahead of them because I'm now media or whatever it's called. So I'm like, next Thursday. It doesn't air every Thursday now.
Yeah, it's Thursdays. Yeah.
Okay, every Thursday night on NBC. You can watch it
on Peacock.
It should be airing on NBC as well.
Really? Is it going to be on NBC every week?
Every Thursday.
Wow.
A new episode. Yeah.
That's big news.
Yeah. And it's at awesome. 9 o'clock Eastern time. Yep.
That's a good chance for people to build some brands who are on this show. Pick up the followers, all the NBC viewers.
Yep. Yep. So it's on Peacock. And so season 1.
Yep.
And then now also once a week, a new episode drops on Peacock as well as on national television for people who don't stream, which like people like my parents, that would have been great when season 1 was airing. So,
well, yeah, a lot of people still don't have Peacock, and Peacock's risen a little bit, and Traitors has been a huge part of why a lot of people have been signing up for Peacock.
Right.
But I know so many people who I recommended the show to, and they're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll sign up for Peacock for a couple months and then I can watch it and then, cancel it. But a lot of people said, I don't have it. And so if it's on NBC every single week, that's great. That's as great.
It's going to be on NBC every week, just started. But here's the thing, like if you're like me, who's not real techie, you're like, literally, when I was on Traitors and then we found out when it was airing, I remember verbatim saying to Rachel, what is Peacock? Like I didn't have Peacock. I don't know this stuff. Now we did move to a new house and now we don't even have cable. We have streaming. So I have all these things that I now don't know how to use. Hulu, Peacock, who knew? I don't even know what's going on. It's insane. But the Peacock's good to have because you can go back and watch other shows.
Yeah, and watch season 1, Deal or No Deal Island. Shout out to Boston Rob.
So excited about that. That looks awesome. Boston Rob, one of my absolute faves, is going to be on this new show, Deal or No Deal Island. It is like Survivor and Deal or No Deal. If you used to watch that, actually, my niece used to be one of the models that held the cases.
Oh,
so
no way.
Yes, they like drop them. And then the people that get the lowest case, the person with the highest case gets to pick which one goes home or something. I don't even know. It was just I'm going to have to text Rob and see what the story is. But it's going to be good. It airs end of February or something.
Rob's going to clean up with these newbies. It's going to be great.
Rob's really good because he's strategic and he's really good with numbers. Rob was like a professional gambler as well. But a lot of these shows, there's a lot of luck involved. So I hope Rob, I don't know the story behind this show. I'm going to watch. Now that I have Peacock, you can watch whenever. But Rob will do well. People like Rob.
Rob would do well on the Traitors too, I imagine.
Rob, mark my word, Rob will be on the Traitors at some point. He would be perfect on the Traitors in any aspect.
I think it would be, you know what, I'd like to see the reverse of if Rob was a traitor, it would seem too obvious. So I'd like to see Rob as a faithful and navigating the game as a faithful.
Right. Or they make him a traitor and he's like, that would be way too obvious, dude. It's not me. Now we need to find the traitors. And then he would cut very early on. He would get the first traitor out. So he didn't look like a traitor. Guaranteed.
I think that's kind of a little bit of what's happening with our friend Dan on this season. Is it almost was a little obvious that he would be a traitor. He's catching a lot of heat. The episode starts out first and foremost though with the murder of Tamra.
Yes.
And they said it was going to be between Sandra or Tamra. This looked like they let Phaedra make the call here in the turret.
Yeah, because she was getting called out for the Housewives Alliance by how'd she say it? Parvati. Don't do that, Parvati. That was hysterical. So I think by her doing that, it kind of saved her a little bit. Like she felt bad doing it. That's her girl. She is kind of in a little Bravo alliance, Housewives alliance. But by doing that, she clears the air there. So smart move by Phaedra. She's undetected completely.
Yeah, I think that Dan even says at the end of the episode that he let the other ladies pick the last couple murders, and now he wants to
Right.
take control.
Right.
This murder certainly benefits Phaedra the most because for the reasons that you mentioned. Why would anyone suspect Phaedra as a traitor at this
Yeah,
point?
I know. Except if you go back to, you got to do that. There's got to be a girl. There's got to be a guy. And it's funny that everybody's like pinning it on like a Sandra or a Janelle or even Parvati's name's mentioned a little bit, but no one's pulling out a housewife. There's got to be a housewife.
Right, and that's where
And now that the housewives are dwindling,
I think that Dan, with some of these early moves that he made, has put himself in this position. Now, part of it is obviously how he's acting. I mean, you had mentioned it, and we'll talk
uh,
about it. There's a
he's
lot
the
of
worst. He should already be out. Like the fact that you won't name a name and you're not even trying to find who the traitors are as a faithful, it's so obvious. It's blatantly obvious, even with all the editing the show does, because that's what they do. It's blatantly obvious he's a traitor. And Janelle knows it. Janelle's just in an alliance with him. I'm completely convinced. I'm putting myself in mine and Cerie's shoes with her and Dan, and I already know without even anybody even admitting that, that is my 100%. She's in an alliance with him.
well, she was until this
Well,
episode.
right. Right, because it's coming down to the wire and they have to get a traitor at some point.
Well, after going into this episode, there were 7 women and 6 men. And if you really look at the options of who it could be, for the same reasons that you say, I think probably I would honestly think that there's probably 2 men in the Traitors. I would think that there are
Right.
two, at least there's one, and out of the remaining men, there are only 6 options right now.
Right.
John
So, yeah, and the
John
odds are in your
Berge,
favor.
yeah, John Berge, Dan, Kevin,
Yeah.
CT, and Peter. And it's like, but who would suspect John, Berge, or Kevin? None of
Well,
them.
here's the thing too. You don't know how many traders there are. You never
Yeah,
do.
it's true.
So there could be 4. They tell you there could be up to 5. It's literally in the rules. So yeah, there could be 2. CT is a good option. He would be a good choice for a trader. Any of them would be. You could be a good choice because you're under the radar. You'd be a good choice because you're the perfect type of a trader. But I mean, you have to go with what is obvious to at least get one to start really eliminating here. And Dan's obvious, and they were on to Dan early. Larsa was on to him. Even MJ, I thought, was on to him. And now she totally turns and goes and tells Dan everything. And Janelle's arguments are so valid. And Peter is so smart. Who knew the pilot was so smart? Wow, I really like Peter. He's like turning into one of my favorites. I mean, he comes up with this master plan that's actually brilliant because, and then Parvati's onto him. Parvati's like, why would he tell you and why would he tell me that he and Janelle definitely have the shield? That means he's lying. And Dan's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I think Dan is going to shoot himself in the foot here because it's
It,
already so obvious for Dan.
well, speaking of Peter, then we get to breakfast, and the first thing that we see is people come into breakfast, and
Hmm.
Peter says, well, I think it's going to be Sandra, Sheree, or Trishelle. I think they're going to murder one of these 3. And they made it look like it was almost Sandra because it came down to Sandra and Tamra. I think those are the
Right.
last 2 to
Right.
enter. I'm curious to know, one, how long are those breakfasts when you were on the show? How long would it take before they bring in a new group of people? Because that conversation seemed like it lasted more than just like 30 seconds.
It varies. So it depends on what they need to get out of you for the show. So, like, it could be 10 minutes, it could be a half hour, and you're up waiting, like in these bedrooms, because there are bedrooms in the castle, and you are literally, as a faithful, crapping your pants because you're like, Am I going to this like weird place where they're going to just tell me I was murdered? Because at that point, you don't know. You go to the interview room with a letter because you've never been murdered. You're like, am I going to go to breakfast? Like it is the worst anxiety, like worse than tribal council. Because at least in tribal council, you can defend yourself.
Yeah.
There, you're off camera and you've been murdered. Like that's it. You have no rebuttal. You can't say anything. Same with banishment. So when it was the three of them, the traitors in the breakfast a couple episodes ago, that probably went on. Who did you poison? Blah, 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 blah. The whole Ekansu thing. That probably went on for a while. So it just depends.
And
because it doesn't, there's not, you're filming all day. Your call time's 8:30. You film till midnight, if not later. I mean, when that clock strikes, that it truly is like, and you only do one challenge throughout the day. You eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the castle as you see them eating. And then you're sitting around either talking, strategizing, walking outside, or you have one challenge. So you have all day. So things can last as long as you want them to last.
Interesting. And then did you guys detect when it would be down to like 2 or 3 people? How did you draw any kind of line of like, these are the 2 people that the traitors were considering? Or do you think that that's more of like the editing product of like, okay, we're gonna change things up and we'll just kind of randomize how the order is? Not random, I'm sure there's some strategy to it, but then it's like, they could, like, for instance, it came down to Sandra and Tamra. They could have clipped in from that conversation, oh yeah, maybe we could do Sandra, but like they weren't actually ever considering it, but they used it because they had Sandra come in as the last person. Like, were you piecing anything together with the order of people filing in?
No, you can't. It's impossible. You don't know what the traitors are talking about when they're murdering somebody, and everybody goes in different. Sometimes I went in first, sometimes I came in last. No, it's the same thing like when you drive in those cars, those like, what are they? Awesome, like Mercedes Jeeps or whatever. Like you're like looking around, everything's suspect. And I had a notebook in my room like you wouldn't believe. I was making notes like, okay, day 1, this truck. These were the 4 people in this truck. This is who you sit next to at the round table. They're probably spaced out the traitors. They're probably not sitting next to each other. They're probably like everything's suspect. There's no way to tell. The only thing you can really go on is by people, how they're acting. And Dan, him not saying a name is beyond. And he does it to the traitors. They're like, let me help you out. Like, you're being so shady. And he's like, I'll give you a name tomorrow. Phaedra's hysterical. I didn't even know who she was. I don't really watch Housewives. She's like one of my favorites now. I'm going to go back on my Peacock and I'm going to watch her. She's like, oh, Lord have mercy. Now he's doing it to us. Like when she says, oh, Lord, and she starts with, Sloan is like 5 years old. Lord have mercy. She starts doing it. The whole Kendrick house starts doing, Lord have mercy. We crack the heck up. Because Dan was doing it to them. I'm like, what is he doing? So I think Dan, and I didn't watch his Big Brother, and I know he was really good and resurrected from the funeral grave, whatever the heck happened. I think he's just not being a great traitor. I think he thinks he's doing a good job, and I think he has up to this point, but they're catching on. He's got to like start. I mean, so what? He throws Janelle's name out there. Of course, everybody else is. Why wouldn't I? But he needs to like start throwing names out.
I think that we're about to see.
I mean, it's too late now, I think, actually.
I think he's going to be throwing all kinds of stuff to the wall in this next episode.
Yeah, but I think it's too late.
Well, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just think it's going to make for great TV. I think Dan's like, I'm going to try to have my Big Brother funeral moment now on the Traitors, and he's going to do something. So we're kind of going all over the place with what's happening, but that's fine. So
normal.
For those who don't know,
standard.
Right, and a normal phone call between the 2 of us anyway. Just so
total 50 directions. Go. Fine.
So Dan, for those who don't know, he won his first season of Big Brother. The second time he played Big Brother, they had a twist where they had coaches. They had 4 coaches in the house. They each got to draft like 3 players, and then they were coaching them. And at a certain point, they got a chance to put themselves in the game. It was like if any of the 4 coaches hit a button to enter the game, they got to play the game. And Dan was like probably the first person to hit the button. And Janelle did too, and they were on the same season. So Dan was playing a game where he was doing pretty well, and then there was someone that he sort of had a rivalry with, not like a contentious interpersonal thing, but they were targeting each other. And this guy was the head of the house, which means he had all the power in the house. He put Dan up for eviction. Dan had a punishment because Big Brother has these weird rules. So he had a
Yeah.
punishment where he had to go into solitary confinement. So he had like maybe a day where they probably put food under his door, but he couldn't leave this room. And
Hmm.
he's just like, I'm dead. My game's over. So he goes in. He's like, I have got to come up with something. So he comes back 24 hours later. He wears all black. He calls for a house meeting and he says, I want to. This is the funeral of Dan Giesling, the Big Brother player. Basically makes it look like, you know what, I don't want to, I don't want, I'm done. I know my time's up. You guys are all going to get me out. That's fine. I just want to say some good words to everybody. And he, by making it look like he was rolling over, he was able to, he was working quietly on concocting a big scheme. He was able to get the HOH to take him off the block. And then Dan ended up having this gigantic web of lies, which ended up catching up to him at the final two. He got to the final two, which was amazing, but he didn't win because he lied to a lot of people and burned a lot of people. And I think we're going to see him try to pull something out of the hat. So
Right.
I think this is the process of him. He's going to sleep tonight at the end of this episode, and he's like, all right, this is my solitary confinement. I'm going to come up with a plan. He's probably not going to sleep the whole night, and he's going to have a plan. But you know what? The other reason why I think he said, I don't know what I'm doing, is because I think he's going to throw out one of the traitors. I think he's going to throw one of them under the bus.
I know. And if the editing is just fooling us, then that would be great. But the last thing he says is, I've got to get rid of Bergie because Bergie told me if I don't come up with a name and mean it or whatever he said exactly, he's writing my name down for banishment tomorrow. Well, Bergie has because my good friend Peter the pilot, who I love now, came up with this great plan to say him and Janelle got it to kind of protect all of them. So Parvati, brilliant move on Parvati, is like, they're lying. It's one of the other two people that were in that bird challenge, which by the way was hysterical. And Bergie has the freaking shield. Bergie and Trishelle have the shield. So if he votes Bergie, it's going to be blocked. And that's what he's saying he's going to do. So that probably won't happen because editing.
Yeah.
But if that happens, that sucks because then they have a wasted murder. And both Parvati and Phaedra were like, I think we should go just to be safe with somebody that was in the house, not that had the option to try to find, just to be safe because it's a 1 in 6 chance.
So
2 in 6.
So here are the options of who they can murder, and we'll circle back to a lot of these things. They've got so let's actually first let's explain the shield strategy here. This was like, it was brilliant on Peter's part, but we got to give credit where credit's due because you guys did the same thing on your season.
It's true. We did. So if you went in on season 1, if you went in and had the opportunity to get a shield, no matter who came out, we decided to not disclose that information so that all of us would potentially be safe. On our season, it failed because some people that were traitors also had the opportunity, and Ari, who ends up being a traitor, gets the shield like 3 times in a row.
Yeah, it's insane.
So he now knows that none of the people who aren't traitors, so he can murder whoever he wants. So our plan failed in that way. In this plan, it was brilliant because 3 teams of 2, 6 people went out into the field, and only 1 team was going to find the shield at the end of this challenge. They came back to the house, the 6 people that were in the house that happened to be, which was kind of stupid. They should have split it up. A traitor should have gone in the field. That was their first mistake, and not 3 traitors in the house ever. We were watching that too, and I had that in my notes. I was like, okay, who split up and went? Which people were buried alive? Which people went to find the maps? Because if there was a shield, do you know what I mean? You always split the traitors. They didn't do that. That was the first mistake. And 3 people in the field, somebody got the shield. They came back. Janelle says, we've decided as a group, we don't want to say which one of us has gotten the shield. which technically should make all 6 of them safe because as a traitor inside the house, when they go into the chair to vote that night, they don't know who has the shield. So Peter concocts this plan and says, Janelle, we're going to pretend you and I found the shield. They did not find the shield. 2 other people in the field found the shield. But that way, they're going to vote for hopefully one of those 2 other people in the field. And if it happens to be one of the 2, which one of those 2, Bergie has it, and Bergie is calling Dan out. But Dan thinks, because he's actually believing Peter, he has the shield. They're hoping he votes Bergie and it's blocked because Bergie has the shield and now they can't murder anybody. Everybody shows up to breakfast. Now we won't know this till the next whatever. Now it didn't help Janelle because it does not help Janelle, obviously, at a banishment, which stinks. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like the shield should protect you from banishment too. There's gotta be a way that you should save yourself from banishment.
I know. And I wish Janelle at some point, I know she's a busy mom of 3. She does real estate. She's in the, public eye a lot. I wish she would come on because I know there's so much editing that goes into that show just from being on season 1 and just all these reality shows that I've done. I wish she would explain her side of things because even at the banishment table, like she's calling out Dan and she's like, just give me a name. I've been begging you to give me a name. It looks almost like they've been working together. And even she's saying, I'm going to trust you whether you're a traitor or not. And you can't tell me if you are or not. And he's saying, I'm going to trust you no matter what you are. That's what it looks like. But she's still saying, we're trusting each other. And I'm begging you. I've been begging you for 5 episodes. Give me a name. Give me a name. And he still won't. So finally, she turns on him if they are aligned. And I would love for her to explain her side of things and where CT came from and where Sandra came from. Because she seemed tight with Sandra. Sandra's like, we were tight the whole show. And you're going to turn on me? CT says the same thing. And then Trishelle's in with CT and she doesn't vote Janelle. And she's like crying that Janelle left. Well, CT, of course, turns on Janelle because she's throwing him under the bus. So sometimes you got to go with the numbers because you don't want to be. Plus, people are throwing you out there. You got to get rid of them. But I would love for Janelle to come on.
We would love to have you anytime,
the inside
Janelle.
Scoop.
You're always welcome.
If she's busy, but I'm sure she would if she had a second when she has a second.
For sure.
It's just so fresh. It's right now. Like I would love to hear her side of things.
So the thing that I think what happened is, like you said, we don't know why she's thinking CT, why she's thinking Sandra. That whole group looks close together, though. So it's like, it looks like it's Sandra, CT, Dan, Parvati, Trishelle. Janelle is in with them. And Janelle's probably thinking, like, she's certain on Dan, which I imagine she was probably suspecting from day one. Like, I get the
100% because she knows him personally. But also, you can tell in the edit when, there's a cardinal outside my window. There's 2. So when she says, what did she say? Something about Dan. Oh, who went and told they're gunning for you, Dan? Was it MJ? She ran right to him.
Sandra and MJ. It was those
Sandra and MJ. And then Dan runs right to Parvati. And Parvati goes, what? Janelle? She's like, well, then we got to go for her. And she kind of looks disappointed. Like, I thought she was with us.
Language.
If you read, like, I thought you can say shit.
No. PG rated. PG rated.
Oh, I thought that was the one word. I thought that was the one word you can say last time.
I bleeped it out last time. All right, we'll try again next week. Keep going.
Oh, for the love of God. I'm really not cut out for this PG rated stuff, okay? And then, by the way, they are dropping F-bombs left and right, even the nice people on the Traitors. So I was pretty good considering season 1. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so if you look at Parvati, she's talking to Dan, and she's, like, seriously disappointed. Like, she cannot believe Janelle's coming after him. So I do think they were all, like, aligned, and now they're like, well, we can't have one of the Traitors go down, so we're going to have to get rid of Janelle.
I think that this is part of where Janelle went wrong is I would say that in terms of numbers, like if she had not gone after CT and Sandra, if she had just left it at Dan, and again, Janelle, we'd love to hear your side of the story. I'm certain you have good reason to have made this decision. However, by calling out Sandra and CT, they both were like flabbergasted. They're like, what the heck? Like me? So now it's
I
like, okay, well,
know.
I got to get this person out because they think I'm a traitor.
I know. If she didn't say them, and if she only would have kept it to Dan and I don't even know, maybe one of the housewives, somebody that was kind of she knew she didn't have. If she would have did that, I think she would have had CT's vote, and she would have had a couple more votes. And
Yeah.
I think she could have flipped it, and it would have been Dan.
Although what I'm curious of is, and we'll hopefully talk to Sandra at some point. I'm curious if Sandra, maybe CT, if they're onto this thing too, and they think that Dan and Parvati are traitors because they're in with them, and they're like, well, we want to be protected, and we're going to make this move later. We're not going to do it right now.
They look like they're all in together.
Yeah.
But then,
And knowing Sandra, she's always kind of onto people that are shady.
yeah, Sandra's pretty good. Speaking of PG rated, how about the FU screaming match that
Oh my
Sandra
gosh.
and Janelle have at the banishment? That's hysterical.
That was so good.
In fact, Rachel and I, here's a little inside scoop, had a similar screaming match on Snake in the Grass in the water when we were swimming back for the last challenge, except for I did not reciprocate. She screamed at me,
Yeah,
a lot of profanities, and I laughed at her because I was the snake. And I was just like, I can't believe this broad's cursing me off right now. I was like, Rachel, shut up. I'm also not the confrontational, so I was like being very nice. But that is hysterical at the banishment roundtable.
This is like we were talking about. Season 2, I think, is a lot better. Season 1 laid the groundwork. They
Okay,
you guys...
okay, Mr. PG. Yeah, it's way better. They're cursing. They're getting drunk. Like, yeah, it's way better. Are you kidding me?
The fireworks.
It's way more dramatic. Oh, yeah.
Confrontational,
There's a whole bunch
strategy.
of Kates going on in there.
Yeah.
Oh, forget it. Forget it. We also had 10 non-reality people that
Yeah.
a lot of them didn't talk much.
Yeah.
Like they were just pretty quiet because, and yeah, it could have been a little bit of the edit, but a lot of it was like they were quiet.
Yeah. Yeah. And our friends, our closest friends, at least my closest friends of the Traitors season 1, Bam, he seemed like he was going to play aggressive, but he was out early. Michael,
Yeah.
very strategic. He was out early.
Michael spoke a lot.
And then Amanda, I don't know how much Amanda was talking, but from what I'd heard, she seemed like she was on to everybody, but she got screwed too. So
Amanda got screwed, and she would have been very vocal. But
she's a big personality. She's hilarious.
Yeah, she's hilarious. I love Amanda. She's hilarious.
But that's the thing, is when you get seasoned reality TV veterans, like you've got Bananas, who's basically trying to host the show in episode 1 by asking questions to everybody, and like,
right.
the whole thing that was funny is when he makes the comment to Alan, and he says like, how's it feel to be the second best dressed guy here? And Alan tells him to back off. I feel like Alan's not just saying it's not about the dressing. Don't try to host my show, Bananas.
Right.
I'm the host.
Right. That was so good. That was so good. That was so funny on Bananas' part, and that was so funny on Alan's comment back. Like hysterical.
But you've got professional reality TV contestants, or I mean, Sandra's not a career reality TV person. She's she's pretty similar to you, I would say, in terms of just kind of pops up, does a couple shows, but she's a mom.
But see, that's the difference between like the gamers. Like we've been on the Survivors or we've been on the Big Brothers or whatever, but like we don't do that for a living. These Bravo people, they do it for a living. Like they are filmed 24/7. That is their life, whether they're acting or not. They're used to cameras being around. Kyle Cook does Winter House and Summer House twice a year. So does his wife. So do all of those Bravos on that show. Like they're used to being on camera and making good TV.
Yeah.
So, the gamers are more just about playing games and strategizing and challenges and whatnot. So it's It's reality TV, but it's very different reality
Yeah.
TV.
And then you've got just confrontational personalities
Correct.
who are like, it starts at breakfast. Like, I don't remember you
Oh,
guys at breakfast ever calling like, oh, okay, this is definitely CT goes right after go to Dan and he's like, Dan, who do you think a traitor is? Come on,
yeah.
throw a name out there. Come on. Like what?
As soon as the banishment's over, they're like, okay, come on, you got to give us a name now. Like you're done. You're out of time.
Like, and
I'm
at
going to give you
breakfast
one more
too.
chance.
Yeah.
Breakfast. Well, I mean, Kate was like, Rachel would walk in and she's like, well, I don't know. I wouldn't pick that outfit. Like
Yeah, that's
that
fair.
right
Yeah.
there. That is Bravo. That is like your typical. Rachel was like, okay, the day didn't even start yet. I just woke up and you're already commenting on my like beret. Get over it.
Well, and now Kate's back. Kate makes
So
the
then
grand.
Kate comes back. And as much as I loathed Kate as a fellow faithful, she is good TV. She is a great choice for her to come back.
She
I'm
makes
happy to
good
see her back.
TV. I
She makes
feel like
good
she
TV.
was personally, I thought she was doing a little much with the confessionals. I feel like she's trying to try
Yeah.
out some of the stand up. I thought it was
Yeah.
funnier when last season she just didn't care. Like I think that was part of
Kate's
the,
a girl of her one-liners, but yeah, I did see that. She in her confessional, she had a bunch of one-liners. I
she was
mean, but
trying.
she is funny. She
I
really
mean,
is funny.
I'm sure they landed for a lot of people. I was like, okay, I felt like doing a little too much. Kate, you just got to be Kate. You don't have to.
Yes,
But
yes.
that's
But
just me.
Kate
I could be totally wrong on other people probably love
also,
it.
no, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's good TV. But Kate, when she first sat down, and Kevin, I can already tell she hates Kevin. And she sat down and Kate rarely looks nervous. Kate, even when Kate is nervous, she fakes until she makes it. She's very good under pressure. She looked nervous. She was like she looked a little nervous if you actually go back and watch.
Yeah.
And then Kevin interrupting her constantly because she interrupted him. He's like, no, you weren't listening. Like, she's like, all right, we got it. We got it. You want to know? No, that's not what I'm saying. Kevin's saying, like, he is just, oh my gosh.
Okay, yes. How about Kevin? Kevin is making like unintentionally great TV. It is so funny watching Kevin.
Kevin
Like,
is,
he had like 3 of these moments in this episode alone. Like it starts with he gives a whole kind of speech about why he should get a shield and like it's his turn to get a chance to go for a shield.
yeah.
That was
And then
funny.
then they go into the field and like, they never even find their first bird call because all they're worried about is getting the shield, and the shield is like nowhere near where they're even at.
And
They're lucky they even finished that challenge.
the bird call challenge was also hilarious. You've got
It was
Trishelle
hilarious.
and Janelle like making these. It's not just the like bird calls and the sounds that they're making. It's like how about the fact like the faces that they're making while these sounds are coming out of their mouths.
No, they're literally making dog barking sounds that are supposed to sound like birds, and it just like hysterical, all dressed up, fully made up. Some of them have fur on, and they're like, cuckoo! Ruff, ruff. I'm like, what? And then you got these idiots in the house running around, and John, who looks like a penguin when he runs, isn't it John?
Yes.
John, my kids are like, why does he run like that? And then you have Alan. Alan's like, hurry up, John. Run faster. And Alan's making fun of him the whole time because he runs like a penguin. I mean, it is like comical.
And
oh my gosh.
Dan and CT had some good little like witty one-liners. Dan's
CT's
like that sounds
like the radio host.
Yeah,
oh my god.
Dan's like sounds like Janelle when she doesn't get a shield. It was like this like distress
Yes.
noise that like I
Yes.
think Trishelle made. That was like a.
Yes.
It was like at some point they're doing chickens. It's like
The commentary, like, it is hysterical. And then Phaedra has a serious crush on CT.
yeah, she does. Yeah.
Oh, she again, Lord, she's like my favorite. She's like this. She like loves him. Oh, she's googly eyed. Is she married? I gotta look her up. I don't know much about her.
She's a housewife, but not all housewives are married anymore.
Yeah, she could be a divorced housewife.
She could be. Yeah.
Oh, she's hysterical. She's cracking me up in this show.
Sandra, like when I saw Sandra running around making the sounds, like replicating the sounds, that had me dying. I thought that was hilarious.
Sandra too. I know. Oh my gosh. Sandra was smart at the round table. She says, you know what, Janelle? We've been together the whole time. And I think you were recently recruited.
Yeah.
because they did recruit somebody and they don't know who, because all of a sudden you flipped. And you know what? Sandra's right.
Yeah.
Somebody was recruited and it was a gamer, but it wasn't Janelle, it's Parv. So she's on it. It's just it's the wrong person. But she was smart to say that. Like that was a good reasoning, as why to banish somebody.
And I could totally see where a lot of these people were coming from of why they went after Janelle for that reason.
A
For
hundred
also
percent.
like the reason of, we didn't, it's interesting because there's a lot we didn't see, but they were saying that Janelle was kind of spearheading the early votes in terms of,
And
so
and
that,
when you're wrong 3, 4 times in a row, you start to look suspicious.
yeah. And I thought
It's just
that that
it's the
was
nature of the
actually,
game sometimes, but it could also look traitor like.
and that's where I actually think Dan was able to spin that into some kind of positive for him of like, look, I'm not
Yeah.
just going to throw a name out there. I'm
No,
going to be
that was a
right.
great idea at first, but now every single person has thrown names out. We're on episode 5, Dan, and you still haven't thrown a name out until
He's going
finally
to,
Janelle. Finally Janelle, because Janelle threw a name out. Now the name he's saying is Bergie, who has a shield. I'm dying. I'm
well,
dying.
that's
If
the,
he That's the edit. If he votes Bergie and it gets blocked, I'm dead. I'm actually dead. Kill me again, murder me, traitors. That is unbelievable because that's
well,
a big risk. Because
well,
Parvati and Phaedra are like, let's just go for someone in the house. And then they're cracking me up. They're like, Dan, you got to say a name. There's only two. Phaedra goes, there's only like 2 left. I can't. She kills me. I do like that Phaedra. Oh, she is funny.
okay, so let's talk about this. Who do you murder here? Because here are your options.
You murder
Bergie.
like a John. You give him nothing.
All
Like
right.
you
Well,
murder like
the 6 or the 5 people who could have a shield are Peter, Kevin, Sheree, Bergie, and Trishelle. So that leaves your options now. You've got John, Kevin, and CT of the men. I wouldn't if I'm Dan, I wouldn't get rid of a man here because like we're running out of male options.
right.
CT, people are suspecting him. I'm not doing that. I might, we know a lot more about how smart Peter is. If I knew that, he'd be someone I'd want to murder, but he is in this potential shield group. And then for women, you've got Sandra, MJ. I'll give you who I would go. I would go Kate. Kate's a wild card,
I
and I
thought that too. Like
just
she
get
just
her.
got there.
Yeah,
They could
it's
have made her a
obvious that
traitor
she.
off the bat.
Yeah, it's
Like
like. Go ahead.
how great would that be? I mean, there but the way he posed it was like, Kate, here's your seat, which by the way was Kyle Cook's seat, and I know that because I sat next to him every single banishment. Kyle was Kate, and I was who's next to Kate? I think it's Bertie. To her right, which is this way.
I didn't notice who it was.
Yep. It's Kate at the top. Here's my pen with my fake diamond. And it's reverse on here. Over here was me. So here was Kyle Cook. Here was me. And you go around the clock. Anyway. And then Rachel, when Kyle Cook got the boot, then Rachel moved over and she was next to me. Anyway, watching that though again, I'm like, oh, that's where Kyle always sat because I love sitting next to him. He made me laugh. So anyway, Kate comes in and they make it though like she's some team leader. Like now you need to convince Kate of your vote and help her learn who to vote. So they never pose it like, and Kate could get the boot too.
Right.
So they it's almost like immediately according to the edit, they take Kate off the table. But I was thinking that. I'm like, you could almost murder Kate and really cause confusion because she wasn't there to begin with and she just
Yeah.
got there.
I
So
feel like that's
it really gives them nothing.
the easiest murder to make because
And then
for
you
what
know that Kate definitely doesn't have a shield. Yeah.
she doesn't have a shield.
Yeah.
Sandra and MJ are numbers for Dan, so why would he want to lose either of them? And then for the same reason, like with these men that you have, like I wouldn't want to take out any more men because you take out another man, now you're only down to 5 guys. So one, they're gonna figure out that it's a 20% shot that they're gonna get you, or
Right.
potentially higher at that.
Right.
And
Right.
like you look at Kevin or John, it's like okay, definitely not traitors. So
I mean, definitely not. But here's the thing. I see why he wants to get rid of Bergie because
yeah,
Bergie's gunning for him.
yeah.
So he either gets rid of him or Bergie's going to convince everybody to vote him at the round table. But Bergie has the shield.
I think Kate is set up so well here. It's like, I mean, it's a ridiculous advantage to come in the middle of the season because you have less banishments and murders to have to try to survive in order to win.
Right. Right.
Reality TV shows aren't fair. I mean, if they were, then they would have
Yeah.
had a tribe
No.
swap on Survivor
Right.
Palau. But like,
Yeah, I mean, what the hell? They would have. And guess what? Life's not fair. And
yeah,
nobody feels bad for you, Kate. So Kate's like, shut up. She's just happy to be there halfway through, and she already got past half of all the BS. So Kate's in a great position.
Kate's in a great spot, and I would take her out because she's a wild card coming in the castle. Like you said, it gives them nothing to work with. It's just kind of basically, okay, this person, yeah, we can sort of say we
See,
don't
this
want
is
this person to
why,
play.
yeah, but this is why it's getting so much better. Like every episode, if you haven't watched, really, if you have the time, you should watch because Kate even says, like, most people are going to think I'm annoying. Most people are going to think this about me. I mean, now it's going to start heating up. Kate's going to get involved. Are you kidding? That's going to bring a whole nother dramatic effect to this season. So episode 6 is going to be like, I can't even wait. When does that come out?
Uh, next Thursday.
Okay. Well, I can't wait. I
Did they
can't
pick
wait.
the right person to represent your season on here? I mean, obviously it should have been you, but
Okay, well, if it couldn't have been me,
yeah.
which it should have been me, but I wasn't that controversial, so I can see why they didn't pick me. Um, I wasn't that controversial because I was just coming off of another show. For those of you that don't know, it's called Snake in the Grass. And one person is the snake and has to lie and sabotage. And they chose me as that person. And I'm not a great, at the time, I wasn't a great liar. Since then, I have read up and studied on lying and I've become an expert and I'm very good at it. And since the Traitors, I would be perfect. So anyway, they didn't pick me. That's their loss. Next time, I'm sure they're going to give me that call. But Kate was a really good choice. I mean, Suri had just won, so they couldn't bring her back.
Yeah, Suri. I don't think Suri would have done it.
And Suri just did Big Brother, and that
Yeah,
was a
she was gone.
long time of
They shot
filming.
this during Big Brother, so she was out
So
anyway.
she was out. Kate also just had a baby, so that's a little bit of a wild card because it is hard to leave a baby or bring a baby to Scotland and film all day and who's watching the baby. And I don't know if she's breastfeeding. It's just the whole thing as a woman. But she's good from a television standpoint. I don't know if she's going to be that great from a game standpoint because all she did was freaking complain when she was there with us. She was like begging us to vote her out, which made us think even more she was like a traitor. And that's why she stayed around and she became a shield for the Traitors. It was a mess. Another good choice would have been Rachel.
Yeah, I would have picked Rachel.
I would have probably picked Rachel if it wasn't Kate over anybody because Rachel is very strategic and she'll bring some drama too and she's good TV. So I mean, I'm happy Kate's back. I think she's going to be fun to watch. But if it wasn't Kate, I would have liked to have seen Rachel.
How about bring them both back? Just have them both.
Well, this is a large cast. Like
Yeah.
this is so. I think they were able to bring Kate back because Deontay quits the game, so it opens up a spot. And actually, like you always have an alternate waiting, and maybe Kate was their alternate. So this is a cast of 22 people. Like that's big. Ours was only 20, and there's only so many days. So it's interesting.
Well, and I guess the other thing is, so I would have picked you or Rachel personally. I'm a
Well,
little
thank you.
biased. I'm a little biased, but I guess the one thing is like Kate is kind of a star of Peacock and Bravo and
She is.
all the like this is their
She
network.
is.
Like you guys
It
are
is.
CBS and they
Right.
would have had already then if they add Rachel, now they have a third Big Brother person. They
Yeah.
kind of want to keep those numbers in check. So
Yeah.
I think it should have been you guys, but I see why they went. And Kate was
Yeah.
probably like the for better or for worse, like she was maybe the most memorable part of season 1 for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Like for me, maybe I'm watching you guys a little more closely, and I'm a bigger fan of the shows that you guys came from, and I know you guys in real life. But and I've also watched the Traitors like 4 times now, so like I'm thinking more terms gameplay and all that stuff like that. But the common person probably only watched once, and they probably remember the chaos that Kate brought, and they want
Yes.
chaos, and that's
Yes.
what we're about. So we want
Absolutely.
chaos.
absolutely. And who knows? Maybe she was brought in midway. Maybe this was a late phone call because Deontay was starting to lose it, and a lot of the housewives type crew was going down. You got Larsa and her boyfriend was gone, and that whole crew was dwindling.
Yeah, that's
Ek
a
and
good point.
Sue.
They wanted to add a little
So
more from that Bravo
bounce it
because
out a little
the
bit.
gamers
Yeah,
are starting really running the show here,
exactly. There's a lot of
and
them left.
you
So we
want
don't
the
really
fans.
know.
Yeah,
This could have been, I mean, listen, their pockets are much deeper for season two. It's obvious the castle's nicer.
yeah.
The contestants are a little more
The
worth
editing's
probably
better.
more. The
Everything,
editing's better, the challenges is better.
the
So
cinematography, the filming, like the
yeah.
camera work, everything.
So this could have been a last minute thing. And they could have just said, hey, Kate,
Yeah.
we've got this opportunity. You're only going to be gone, whatever, 10 days, 2 weeks.
So going into next episode, we've talked about who Dan wants to murder, but I think in terms of the banishment, and we saw the promo, they said it at the end of the episode, and he says, since day one, I've been watching one person. It's time for that to come out. He's going after either Phaedra or Parvati. I'm convinced. I think it will be one of those two. That's what I think the play is. I think he's
I think he
thinking,
needs,
I'm
I
going to
think
take
he,
my shot, and then if I show that, look, see, there's a method to my madness. There's a reason why I was quiet. I was waiting for the moment to strike. We've got the votes.
if he's smart, that's what he'll do.
I think that's what he's going to do. I'm pretty sure that's what he'll do. I don't see
Yeah.
why
I
he
mean,
would.
because you
What's the
got to
other
give
play?
them some blood now anyway. You
And
have
that's
to.
why I think he doesn't tell the traitors. Like, they say, what are you going to do? He's like, I'm going to sleep on it.
And Phaedra's like, oh, now he's doing it to us. And Parvati's like, come on, Dan, let us help you. Like, she's hysterical with her words, too. She's like, no, I'm just trying to give you a little emotional support here. So funny. So funny. Because they're exhausted. It's like 12:30 at night. It has been almost like 18 hours straight of just thinking and strategizing. It's freezing, by the way, in that castle. They probably got space heaters. We never had a damn heater.
Oh.
Like, freezing. That's why it's like so funny. Parvati's like, oh, the sun's out. Let's go outside because in Scotland, it like that time of year it rains a lot and it's cold and damp and the castle's like cold and there's a breeze. Oh, it was man. That'd be like Survivor going back to that castle. There's certain smells I walk by and I'm like, oh gosh, I remember that smell on the island. It brings you back. That's what it would be like going back into a drafty castle.
So this round table, we mentioned Kevin. I was cracking up when that was the best Kate moment when she's just like over the whole Kevin thing of like, okay, we get it, and he's just like,
she's like this. Who is he? And then they're whispering, and he's like, "Are you listening?" She's like, "Yes, I'm listening. I got it. You want to vote?" He's like, "No, I'm trying to." See, you weren't listening. He's a politician, and that's why I'm like, "Oh, Kate hates him. Kate hates him."
Kevin has like this strange like hatred for other people in the cast. Like he started all of a sudden this episode he seems to hate Janelle. Before that he's like he called out I think it was Larsa in an earlier episode where
he tells MJ, wasn't that her name? You're MJ, annoying. Yeah. I find you highly offensive and annoying. I'm like, oh my God, the girl doesn't even say hardly anything. I mean, she does, but like he is like. He's a person that I don't even know. They're not even going to murder him, and no one's even going to banish him because they don't even think he's a traitor. So he's going to go to the end. He's going to be like, he's going to be like Quentin on my season. He's just like Quentin. He's going to go to the end.
Those are the people you keep to the end.
Seriously.
The other reason why I think why Janelle's out here. I do think that there's some kind of consequences for taking the shields. I do think it seemed like, again, I'd like to hear Janelle's side of the story, but based on the edit and what we saw, like we had heard at other points, like Janelle's selfish. They said that several times. She's leading the charge on these things. So like one of the reasons is, okay, well, you know what? She might not even be a traitor. But she's been wrong. She's lost credibility with this group.
That's what it is.
She's gonna keep throwing out names. We don't trust her, even though she's right this time, unfortunately. And the other thing is this person's going to take the shields. I'd like to get a shield at some point because you're
So
seeing some of that boil
yes,
over a little bit.
yes. What is this? Her third shield now?
Well, she didn't get it this time, but she was
But her third
covered.
time she went,
Yeah.
like the third time she went for it. And then sometimes if you do think there's a gamer girl or whatever, sometimes you have to take your shot just to weed it out. Like people were convinced that Michael was a traitor. I knew, Rachel knew, and even Suri was agreeing with us. He's not a traitor. The guy's just a nervous guy. It's his upbringing, whatever. Some people were like, well, you bring in so much nervous energy that we just got to do this vote. And then even if you're not, we just have to eliminate that. So I think that Janelle has a few things against her. Number one, she called out a traitor and was dead on accurate because she's smart. Number two, she did have a couple wrong. So people feel they were leading her in the wrong direction. Could also make her look like a traitor, but also she's very influential and she's very like, she's a person you might listen to. So they just wanted to stop having her voice her opinion because she had been wrong. And also the shield thing. Going hard for the shield day one. I think I was worried that might bite her, you know? But she's so far, in my opinion, the smartest person on the show, which is why they had to get rid of her. Because she knows it's Dan.
Yeah. I would love to know why she called out CT and Sandra. I mean, I imagine obviously that round table lasts a lot longer than we saw. There are probably other people that were throwing out a bunch of names, but yes. And
my favorite Janelle line, and she has had a lot of lines, man. She is funny. She is like, I'm a faithful, you idiots. That was my favorite. That's like my favorite. It's like my favorite word, you idiots. It's like a silly word, like you idiots. And she sounded like a silly girl.
Throw that out there too on your season?
Probably.
I think she like ran off and she's just like, idiots.
Oh, she ran off and said, no, you have to say you idiots. Like that's a Philly thing. So I was like, yes, Janelle.
You got to be in the room when you do it. You can't just do it like she's already ran off and that's weak.
Correct.
You got to be confrontational.
Right. Like right to their faces.
Right to their face. And then if someone is like, you can tell people to F off, just can't do it on this particular podcast.
Right.
That's good TV too. We like that.
I've been on the other side of that. I've had many. Oh, and Kate at the round table didn't air. She told me, F off, B. F you, B. And I laughed at her. That was another. Yeah, a lot of people have told me to F off. Listen, I got thick skin. You have to come at me more than that.
Steph, what do you have in your notes?
We've talked about a lot of it. Kate, of course, one of her first lines in the chair is, oh, it's a love letter. Probably from Alan. He's obsessed with me. I'm like this. Here we go. Here goes the Kate show. Yep. Now she thinks Alan's obsessed with her. You know, of course, that's Kate's entrance. But I don't know. I really hope the way that they showed it ending is not how it is. And I hope Dan goes for one of the traitors just to mix things up because, I mean, if it's Bergie, that is, I mean, I hope that as a faithful, I hope that. Yeah, the murder. That's
the murder. He can't murder a traitor. I think he's going for the banishment. I think it's
either for the banishment. Yes.
For the banishment, he's going to go for, do you think it's more likely he goes for Parvati or Phaedra? Because Parvati would be more suspecting. People seem to, you've heard her name tossed out there a little bit. Phaedra said everyone thinks you're a traitor.
Yeah, he from the beginning recruited Parvati so he could use her and like sacrifice her.
And they
told
us that in the edit to set up for this moment potentially.
If Dan is around still after this, which I hope that
he will be.
What they're showing.
No, they're going to be a banishment. Dan is they're going to murder somebody and there's going to be a banishment.
So right. We got to see who they murder first. They left off him saying he's murdering Bergie.
Oh, okay. So, but if the
plan works. If he murders Bergie and Bergie's still there, they then know that one of those people in the house, if not all of them, are the traitors. Do you see what I mean? And they're already suspecting Dan, and Bergie already said, you better come up with a name or I'm writing your name down.
Well,
So if the plan works, Dan's the next one banished.
could be Parvati too, though, because Peter
If
went
he
to
can convince. Yes,
Parvati, CT, and Dan were the three
correct.
that I believe he went to with this plan that they showed us. And so Dan could put that on Parvati. I
And
mean,
with the
it
way the
doesn't mean it's
edit's
going to work. It
going,
doesn't mean it's going to work,
no,
but he's
but with
going to
the way that,
try.
yes, and with the way the edit's going, you don't know. Like Parvati could be getting called out left and right, and we just don't even see that. You know what I mean? They're just not showing us that. That's why I don't think it's going to be a blocked banish thing, a blocked murder, because they showed us that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be. Well, it could be. It could be blocked. They could be
Oh
laying the
my
groundwork
gosh.
for
If
us with
it did,
Peter.
that would be like, oh my gosh.
So, Steph, we're going to start doing this each week, and we have to come up with a name for this, but we're going to give out an MVP award for each
Okay.
episode. And honestly,
Okay.
I think we'll talk throughout the week. We'll have to come up, maybe we could come up with multiple awards. We can come up with like most entertaining, but the MVP of the episode would be, who played this the best. So who's
Oh,
the
Peter.
MVP of
Peter.
this
Peter's
is the
my
Peter
MVP.
episode. Yeah.
This is totally Peter. And then like most entertaining is Phaedra. Like I can't with her. She's killing me. My kids love her.
Well, and to your point about the edit, part of the thing with Dan is that Dan is such a good narrator and he's so strategic and he
Mm-hmm.
makes good TV. So even if like he's getting off scot-free and he's doing really well, he'd be the focal point, I think, of the Traitors in terms of like the strategic presence. So yeah, we'll see where this is going. I think they're gonna get Dan eventually, but I think we're gonna see Dan playing very aggressive in episode 6. That's my prediction.
So I'm trying to think back. Like, did it take us till the 5th episode round table to get Cody, our first traitor, or did it? See, I just
Yeah,
was it the
uh,
5th episode or
I
6th
think
episode?
I think it was the 5th. I will pull that up as you talk. So continue.
Because if it was the 5th, we got a traitor before they got a traitor. Because this is the 5th and they don't get a traitor. So now we're going into the 6th. And I felt that like that took because Rachel calls out Cody episode 1. She's like, Cody's definitely a traitor. And then Rachel and I team up. They don't show it. And I'm like, are we cool from Snake in the Grass? Like, obviously, you know, I'm a terrible liar. Like, I'm a faithful. Do you trust me? And she's like, oh, I know you're not a traitor. We're in together. So then I'm like, I don't know that Cody guy, but he's acting just like I acted on Snake in the Grass. And she's like, oh, I know Cody. I was on with him. I never watched Big Brother. And she's like, he's totally a traitor. So like day 1 in the castle, Rachel and I had our minds made up. Cody was a traitor. And it took us forever to get the numbers and to convince people. So, but I thought we got them in like episode 5.
You
So
guys
they're
got
going
him
into
actually in okay, technically episode 7. It was just they did a cliffhanger so it should have been episode 6.
yeah.
The
Oh,
end of
wow.
episode 6 spilled over into, but then the other thing you have to think about
It took
is,
forever.
well, it did, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're on the exact same cycle of like every single episode
Yeah.
containing the same amount of murders,
Yeah.
people quitting, all that stuff. So
Yes. And I believe there were 12 episodes on my season. Or were there 11?
there
Or
were
were there
10.
10?
Yeah.
10.
So
Because
this
I
season's
went
gonna have
to
12, I think.
okay, so they'll have more.
I think there's
Okay.
12 in a reunion, I want to say, which is
'Cause
good for us. We get more episodes.
Rachel went to episode 8 and she got banished at 8,
Yeah.
and I got the letter in the start of 9
Yep.
of murder. Another thing that was interesting, and I don't think Kate had been watching the show, obviously, no, she couldn't have been. But when they're trying to look at the pictures on the wall and figure out, okay, who's left, who do we think, whatever, Parvati comes in, is like, does anybody want a drink? And Kate's like, no, thank you. And then she's like, guys, for the love, pour your own drinks. Like, don't be taking drinks from anybody, especially not Parvati. She said something like that after literally Parvati just poisoned Ekin-Su. That was so funny. I was like, wow, Kate gets in there quick. Like she doesn't miss a beat. But because she was like, how did Ekin-Su go? Like, and they're like, I don't know. There was like some slow acting poison. They didn't say. They don't know until they watch the show. They're not even going to know that Parvati was the one that. So I thought that was pretty sharp. of
I
Kate.
think that's where Kate shines the brightest is,
Yes.
like I said, I felt like some of the confessionals, she's trying to ham it up, and I'm sure some people love
She's
it.
hamming it
It's
up.
for me, it's like, okay, I feel like it's a little too much. It didn't land quite as much with me, but where I think she's great is the reacting to people and
She
talking to
is.
people.
Because even though she's hamming it up, she's quick-witted.
Yeah,
So
and
even
that's
if it's
where
planned out, she's also sharp and quick too. So without
that's
a
where
plan.
like
So you
she's
can
talking
see that.
about
Yes.
taking Janelle's room. Like I get
Oh,
Janelle's room
oh
now.
yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
just that kind of stuff where it's I
Kevin's
think
like, what? She's like, yeah, she's gone. I'm gonna take her room.
and that's where that's what I'm saying. I think she's better where it's the quick-witted stuff where I think the
Yes.
confessionals you might be thinking
She has
about what
her
you're going to say a
candid
little more.
lines.
Yeah.
Like she's like, I'm here to F up since I can't curse. Like that's Kate's favorite line. That's all she said on our show. Like that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to F. Like she would say during the challenges, and we're like, all right, Kate, whatever, shut up. You know.
Do you have a prediction for the next episode?
A prediction.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Peter's my star pick, Peter, may have had some master plan. And if it works, Peter for president. Peter for president.
Peter 2024. Pilot
Peter
Pete
2024. There you go. I'm sad Janelle's gone. You know, that sucks. She brought a lot to the show.
I'll see if we can get Peter on here at some point. He is friends with Garrett from Garrett Powell was on the same season of Bachelorette before he became the Bachelor. And Garrett is actually good buddies with him. He said he's actually a great guy in real life. So maybe Garrett can facilitate that.
So Peter, who I didn't watch his season, so I don't know anything about him. I didn't even know he was a pilot. And the other night, Sloan and I were watching, and Kyle Jr. Sophia was at volleyball, and I go, gosh, he reminds me of somebody. And I'm watching him, and he doesn't literally look exactly like him, but there's something about his face and his mannerisms and the way he talks. And I'm like, guys, does he look like Uncle Petty? Now, if you remember Jonathan Pettibone that played for the Phillies for a short time.
Yeah.
So we're like, he's like our kids. We're so close with that family. Like our kids call him Uncle. So I text Petty, and I'm like, you need to watch the Traitors because you look like this guy Pete. And he goes, Pilot Pete? He knew all about him. So he's the one who told me he was a pilot. I didn't even know it. But so shout out to you, Petty. You're on the Traitors in spirit. Like he's like turning into one of my favorites, this Pete guy.
Next week I'll have a side-by-side picture of the two of them.
Oh, good.
If you here's what
but
you
they
do.
don't really look alike. It's not even that. You need to see like you need to see Petty like talk.
Okay. Maybe
we
can
call
find
him Petty. His name's Jonathan.
Maybe we'll find a highlight, like an interview of him that we can clip and play for 30 seconds, and then a clip of Peter talking.
Correct.
We'll see if we can have that ready for next week. Do you have anything else in your notes?
Parv smart, Dan dumb. If with what they're talking about in the turret, like with Dan wanting Bergie out and Parv going, I don't know. I think we should go for somebody in the house just to be on the safe side.
Well, to that, I think what's interesting is what did Dan say? He said, I don't think Peter is like crafty enough to come up with that kind of strategy.
Yes. And she says right away, that means he's lying. Why would he tell you of all people? And he just voted against you. And he thinks you're a traitor. And then they told me the same exact thing. So that could have been whatever, but...
And this can be the pitfall of a lot of people who play
and
Survivor.
Then
yes?
Dan saying this could be a really good move and win me the game, or this could lose me the entire game. I was like, oh my God.
It's getting so good.
Pete's things work. And they keep saying how smart he is. Like somebody says, oh, he's not just for Janelle. There's another line. It's not just a pretty face, you know? So, but what's the pitfall of Survivor? Say it again.
I just think the pitfall of some of these characters, like a Dan or someone who plays Survivor or Big Brother, who's ultra strategic, is they've got all this great strategy and ideas, and they're really smart. They got it all in their head, and their pitfall is that they discredit some of the people they're playing with. They think that they're the person who's running the show. They think that no one's on to them. And I think that if this is what Dan truly thinks, and this is something that, you know, he goes for it, and he just underscores and says, oh, that guy's from The Bachelor. He can't keep up with me. then that's a
Right.
flaw in his point. And you could probably, I mean, I'm sure you saw some of that with Survivor, with people who think they're running the show, and it's like, nope, we're all playing the game here too. It's not just you.
Yeah, no, it happens a lot. It happens all the time. And you undermine people. And then another thing too, like the biggest thing is like with a lot of these shows, all of these shows, probably even the Housewives show, I don't know. It's like trust no one. And then people really do start because that we're human beings and that's what we have to do in this world. We have to trust someone. You can live your life trusting no one, be a very lonely life, you know? So you have to kind of trust some people. And sometimes, I mean, you saw it with Andy, with Suri, with Quentin. I mean, they trusted Suri with their lives.
Yeah.
And Suri like backstabbed them right to their faces. So it's a game. But yeah, you undermine people. That's a huge mistake. You really shouldn't count anybody out. Like Stan saying, I don't know if he's that strategic. If that backfires, that's going to be like the line of the year. And Pete for president, 100%.
Pilot Pete 2024.
2024.
Anything else from your notes? I
No.
got a couple things.
Okay, good.
Social media, taking a look at something. This is from just kind of like we got our notes on the episode. One thing I thought was interesting. What are the people saying on social media? They're saying a lot. I haven't looked too deep into
Which social media?
About.
What are you talking about?
Well, Dan went on a live and he talked about some things, and I haven't listened to it.
Okay, I haven't seen any of this.
Janelle has gone on a podcast with Tamra. I'm sure they're airing stuff out. Other people are probably doing. I'm sure that people from this cast are doing lives and podcasts and saying stuff or posting stuff.
Bananas has a podcast.
Yeah, but Bananas wasn't there for it. So the one thing I thought was an interesting little fact. Shout out to Sandra. She did post on Instagram. You guys may have noticed she's got a little bit of a gash on her face. She got that in the, I think it was the Grave Challenge, and she said she has a scar from it. So
yeah, so actually, I talked to Sandra briefly. She ran into something in the Grave Challenge, and you do see it at breakfast the next morning. It's like this huge. She has a scar from it.
Yeah.
I mean, they just got they didn't get back that long ago. I guess
she said it's getting better each day. Scars fade though. I mean, like
especially on your face. Your face sheds a lot of skin. Yes. Your body, like, it can take forever.
It's true, because I had my thyroid surgery in my neck, and people mostly don't notice the scar unless I point it out. And then you get a little more, like, if you tan a little bit, that can.
Well, she's dark like me. She's going to scar. And, like, nobody knows about scarring more than me because I was scarred head to toe from Survivor Guatemala. I went to like plastic surgeons and was like, could you do laser? I mean, there was not a spot on my skin that was clear I didn't look like a leper with like these dark marks. So I will have to let Sandra know that I can help her out with that scar because I have some remedies. Or if you check out my Instagram, I talk a lot about skincare on there. So
that's true. Good plug.
Yeah.
Steph is half Italian. She looks full Italian, and that's where the tan skin comes in. Steph, you probably don't know this. There are probably like 2 or 3 different Reddit threads where people have tried to like, what race is Stephenie? Is she a minority?
That's so funny.
People like, I think she's Latino or Latina.
That's so
like, it's just funny. It's like, why do you guys care that much?
Listen, I've gotten that my entire life. Like, so my mom's blonde hair, blue eyes, 100% German, but she tans. And then my dad's 100% Italian. So I'm actually half and half. But I have a brother. But I look dark. Yeah. But like, so my one brother is really tan. My other brother is really light. So I guess you can go either way. But like, I don't know. My kids like thought I was black for the longest time. How about that? They're like my own kids. And I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with that. But no, I'm half Italian. And they're like, oh, because we thought we were black too. And I'm like, no, you're half, no. Daddy, my husband's like mostly Norwegian, so he's just like a mix of like, really his family's mostly from Norway, and then maybe he's a little German. So I'm like, you're probably only a quarter Italian, and then you're mostly like German, and then mostly a little Norwegian.
Viking.
Yeah. And then they're like, but we're African American too, right? I'm like, who's African American? Where'd that come in? They're like, well, you. But I've gotten that my whole life. Like people think I'm Hispanic. People think I'm Mediterranean. Like so funny. I didn't know there was Reddit threads about my race. That's
Yeah, it
hilarious.
was so funny because it was like people were like obsessed to like make a list of like all the minority women who've been on Survivor and see if you're in that category
Oh,
type of.
that is
That's
so
like it's just
funny.
like why do you care that much? Like
That's so funny. No, but listen, if you need me to play a part on any show, like I could have been the Italian girl on The Sopranos, they called me once. I could be the Hispanic girl on like The Days of Our Lives, they called me once. Like I could be whatever part you want, okay? I'll play the part. I can really do good impersonations. I got to be in the mood.
the
But,
Kate impression, that was their first impression that you've broken out on this Traitors podcast. A plus impression, by the way. So keep the
when was
impressions
that?
flowing. You did
When
it a
was
little
that?
earlier. You did the like
Oh,
when she got the letter and said
oh yeah,
Alan loves me.
I gotta
You're
feel
making
it. Yeah.
you're doing the facial expressions and the hand
Oh yeah.
movements and
Yeah,
everything. So
no, I have to feel it. And then if I have a little alcohol or wine, forget it. I get really good with the impressions.
the Rachel impression is probably the best.
Oh
That one was.
yeah, when I did that so long ago. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
The Suri
Yeah.
one's good too. Suri
I can
laughed at
do
that one. Yeah.
I can do a lot of people. I can do even my closest friends I can really do. Or like a random person that I'm always around, like at school that talks just like I'm always like, why does she talk like that? I could like do them really well. It's
um,
gotta be I gotta be in the mood though. I can't be
Steph will
like
work.
stressed out.
Yeah, Steph will work
You know.
those in over the next 10 episodes, or I guess I think we got 7 more of
You
these.
need to make some edits. You need to cut my impressions all together and like stay tuned for my impressions. Who's this? Name this person.
That could be
Because
a
you're
whole
good.
episode.
You're good at editing. Again, I am computer like not tech savvy. I have issues when it comes to anything like that. So
She's Steph LaGrossa Kendrick on Instagram. Steph _ LaGrossa _ Kendrick. She's repping a Philly reversed hat. What's this called?
so my husband is really good friends with a guy here that started this reverse brand, and he sent me this Philly hat because I am a Philly girl. And I love, and to be honest with you, I like literally didn't even shower and I just got home from the gym, didn't do my hair. And this matched because I'm wearing black pants. This is what I wore to the gym this morning. So I like put a hat on and happened to be my reverse hat because I don't have many black hats. I don't know. But it's a really cool brand and everything's reverse and they have Tampa and they have all the different cities. And so I don't know if you like an upside down, high, really cute hat, go to reversed.
And what was really cool for the sports fans, because we got a lot of sports fans who listen to this. And you know what's cool is actually, I feel like we're getting a little bit of a crossover right now. I know some of our sports listeners are saying, hey, I'll check out the Traitors. Like, for those who missed it, I just did an interview with DJ Hers, minor league pitcher. He should be up in the big leagues this year. He's in the Washington Nationals farm system. And he's a Survivor fan. He's a Challenge fan. I told him about the Traitors, and he texted me yesterday, and he says, girlfriend and I just watched episode 1. We are locked in. We're gonna binge this whole show. They'll probably watch season 1. But speaking of for our sports fans, Baker Mayfield wore the Tampa hat, the same
Yeah.
hat that Steph has a Tampa one, right? You got a Tampa one too?
I have a white with blue Tampa.
Yeah.
And he wore the orange. Didn't he
Yeah,
wear
he wore
orange?
the orange. That was kind of matching like the old Bucks uniforms from the 70s.
Yeah.
He wore
Yeah.
it to a game, and that's the same brand. And so they put Baker and Steph on the same Instagram story.
Oh, that's funny.
And it was funny. I think, no, that wasn't when they played Philly, although that would have been funny if it was
That
when
would
he
have
was
been
playing your
awesome.
team. But
That would have been great.
He did boot your team from the playoffs, unfortunately.
Oh my gosh, they crushed the Eagles. I heard. I went to bed. I was like, you know what, I'm going to bed. But the Eagles were doing so well, and then they weren't playing so hot. So I don't know. There was like a long weekend of volleyball tournaments or something, and we were up late, and I was like, I'm going to bed. But one of the co-owners of this brand used to play for the Lightning, so now they have like Vinny LeCavalier is really good friends with Kyle, so a lot of the Lightning players wear it too. So they're not just for athletes; they're for whoever. Like Crystal Howard texted me and was like, "Where'd you get that hat?" Because she's from Philly.
Ryan Howard's wife.
Yeah. So I was like, come on, you got to get your Philly hat reversed. Go on that. I don't even know their actual handle. It's like at reversed brand. I mean, you'll find it. It's on my Instagram if you need to. But they have all the different cities, and a lot of the athletes are wearing them. A lot of regular people are wearing them too.
The Eagles, unfortunately, as you mentioned, I think they started out 11-1 or 10-1, and they lost 5 of their last 6 games. Then they lost the playoff game. It seemed like they had team chemistry issues or something. I don't know what happened there.
Listen, I don't know. Kyle Jr. is a huge Packers fan. We don't know where it came from. We don't know why. And the other night they were supposed to get blown away and they ended up losing by like what, 3
Yeah, it was a great
to move
game.
on. And
And they
because
killed the Cowboys the week before, too.
I know. So they were like, they could have moved on and they have a really young team. They're going to be good in the future. But Kyle Jr. came down and, like, in fact, maybe if they have, I don't know, Wisconsin backwards, that'd be a long name. Um, green
Green
and
Bay.
yellow. Vinny, I need a Wisconsin for Kyle. Um, but he came down in like full out Packers gear. Like even the stuffed animal, he's 10. He had it dressed in like a Packers helmet, like full uniform. I was like, I didn't even know you had this much Packers gear. We might have a problem. But they just lost. That was a sin. Philly's out,
Close,
Packers out.
closing thoughts.
Bucks are still in. Go
No,
Bucks.
they
I
lost.
do live.
Bucks lost
Oh,
to the
Bucks are
Lions.
out.
Yeah.
Who's in?
All right, we got Lions and
Chiefs.
49ers on the NFC, and then
Okay.
Chiefs, Danny's team. Feels like
Yes.
Danny's been enjoying just such a great run here with the
I
Chiefs.
feel like they always have a good team because we're
Yeah.
good friends with the Franciscos, Ben
Yep.
Francisco, and like Cindy, his wife, was a cheerleader, and I don't know. They're always in. She's always all dressed up in her Kansas stuff.
Chiefs and Ravens. So you got
That
Baltimore, Kansas
49ers
City,
are good. Those 49ers.
49ers.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. We'll be talking. I'm sure we'll have more thoughts on that next week. Closing thoughts, Steph.
Nope, I can't wait for episode 6.
Episode 6. Shout out to our MVP this week, Peter. You crushed it.
Peter,
Let's
crushed
see if
it.
if your success
Yes.
carries over.
Yes, let's see if the plan works. Can you imagine, Peter, if it does, I am voting for you for president. He's not even running. He's like, great, I'm not running.
I think a lot of people would be okay with a third option like a Peter.
What the heck? He'd be great. He'd be a great, nice, neutral option. Young, he's young.
Unite the country.
He'll unite the country. Listen, we are not getting into politics, but he's
Nope.
a pilot and he's smart and he's young. And he's doing okay on the Traitors. What could go wrong?
She's Stephenie LaGrossa Kendrick at Steph LaGrossa on Instagram. Steph_LaGrossa_Kendrick on Instagram. Thank you, Stephenie. This is great. See you next week.
That was fun. Can't wait.
All right, y'all. That concludes our recap of the 5th episode of The Traitors. Episode 6 coming up next week. If you guys haven't checked it out, go check out my interview with DJ Hers. He is a future big league star. He just pitched in the Arizona Fall League. He is pitching in the Washington Nationals farm system. Like I said, he's a reality TV fan, so we actually talked a little bit about that. There's a lot about his life in minor league baseball. It's a great interview. You guys will enjoy it. Next week, we'll have another interview coming out with Gabriel Rincones Jr. He's a Phillies outfield prospect and also a great guy. And he's from Scotland. He grew up in Scotland. So maybe he's seen the Traitors. Maybe he's got some thoughts on the Traitors. Hit subscribe to the Jack Vita Show. I know a lot of you guys are watching us here on YouTube. That's great. Please hit subscribe and turn on those notifications so you get access to whenever these episodes go out. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I typically will release the YouTube videos at around like 9 a.m. Central Time. That's typically when it comes out on YouTube. However, if you guys are subscribed on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, the audio episodes typically come out sometime the night before. So if you guys want to have early access to the episodes, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and then you can watch the episodes also on YouTube the following morning. So make sure you guys are all subscribed. You can follow me at Jack Vita Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And by the way, we'd love to hear your comments. So if you got questions for us that we can answer in our next episode, leave them here in the comments below, and we'll see how many of those comments we can get to. Questions, leave them in the comments. I should have said that at the start of the episode. I will say that at the start of next episode so that I make sure you guys' questions are being answered. Until next time, I'm Jack Vita. Bring in the dancing lobsters.